Apparently, only women hate Omni Man. One of my other videos, someone commented that to me, and I was really confused. But it does bring up an interesting conversation because I do see a lot of Nolan lovers. It's always been crazy to me because y'all never forgave Amber for yelling at Mark. Y'all can forgive Nolan for this? Listen, I get it. Everyone's different. We all have different experiences. And Nolan is a well-written character who goes through a very interesting arc. I want to talk about why I personally, someone who's read the entire Invincible series, never forgave Nolan. And don't worry, I'll alert you guys when I'm going to get to comic book spoilers. But let's start with the show. Now, in the comic book, we don't know that there's something up with Nolan until he kills the Guardians of the Globe. But in the TV show, we understand that something is amiss immediately. As soon as Mark gets his power, he reacts kind of oddly. The first training session, he punches him just a little bit too hard. And there are just moments where the mask that he puts on goes away. And then for the rest of season 1, we watch him gaslight Debbie, train Mark to take over the world. When Mark said no to that, he crashed out. Man beat him to Chicago, called his mom a pet, and then left him there to die. Then in season 2, we see him move on and start an entirely different life with a fly that he met as a child. That's weird. That's weird to me. I understand that Nolan was indoctrinated into this life. Me personally, I don't like Nolan because he is one of those men that needs validation. He needs to be worshipped. He needs to be in the lead. In the show, we see him attempt suicide, and there's a duality with Debbie, who's also considering suicide. She saves herself. He doesn't commit the act because there's a moment where he sees he's needed and can be a hero. Once again, I want to remind you guys, because I can see your little fist balling, okay, that this is how I interpreted the event. Everyone's going to interpret it differently. Nolan is an incredible character. I am not refuting that. I love his arc. I love the way that he's written. I just don't like him as a person. And that's what a good character is. But to really get into the meat of why I don't like Nolan, I'm gonna have to get into comic book spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please dip right now because I'm gonna get deep into it. I don't think that anything Nolan does is selfless. By the time Nolan arrives to Earth, he knows that the Viltrumites are dwindling and they're not the dominant force that they were maybe 300 or 500 years ago. He has full-on plans to just stay on Earth and settle with Debbie. And personally, that's why I believe that he became Omni Man in the first place, because his protocol was to pull up to Earth and let them all know what's up. He is a world recognized hero, gets to be worshipped by billions of people. That was the type of life he was trying to live. There's only 10 of them. Who was going to check him? And Mark's powers manifest. And all of a sudden, he's like, you know what? Let's do this Viltrumite thing. And I need y'all to remember that Mark is about 100% Viltrumite. That's how strong their DNA is. So now Nolan realizes that they can build their numbers up and build their empire again. So then what does he do? Try to recruit Mark. And when Mark says no, he crashes out and then goes to another planet and becomes their god. But in every other universe, Nolan and Mark take over the world. And the one time that Nolan decides not to, it's in his best interest because now he created an op instead of an ally. And if Mark defecting is possible, then maybe things won't pan out the way that he thinks they should. We see that cycle over and over again with him. I never read Nolan's redemption arc as sincere because every time he did something that was selfless, he ended up on top. He died a hero. And that was after he became the king of the Viltrumites. He still got to keep Debbie as a pet. They didn't even give her a death scene. Nolan got to live his life as a hero, a legend. And he got to die on top, which is all he ever wanted. And then there's the added fact that he committed mass murder and genocide before the events of Invincible. For me, I could never forgive. Oh yeah, and I also didn't like the way that he initially reacted to Anissa as he ends up trying to fight her, blah, 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 blah. But there is a moment where he's trying to explain to Mark, like, you know, that's our culture, blah, 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 that I didn't bang with. I don't like Nolan, and that's okay. To answer my earlier question, is it only women that don't like Nolan? I don't think so. But if that's true, I think we should instead examine why it's so easy to forgive men who do unspeakable acts over women who are just a little bit annoying. But definitely don't hold your breath for me to change my mind, even with the show. Actually, especially with the show, because he's significantly worse in it. But y'all can enjoy him while I still hate him. You know?